Welcome back, everyone, to GPVWC Supercup. Thank goodness we're not going to miss the start of the race. We're here for both of them, full and live. Sorry for that quick, unexpected break. We just had to sort out some things with the stream to make sure that we could bring this to you. But we now can, and we're going to, and it's going to be great. So anyway, the grid about to line up, or at least to go to the formation lap. First of the two races here. And as I began to say before this, before we went for the unexpected break, it is indeed Luke Maguire on pole position. Maguire, of course, second in the championship, only 9 points behind Chris Butcher. Moritz Kropp will be alongside him. And then it's Tom Stevens, Chris Butcher, Fabian Ruth, Owen McGorgy, Damien Kardash, Jan Granqvist. Now, I don't know who Jan Granqvist is. I don't know if he's been in any Super Cup races before, but I don't see him on the championship standings, so I believe that he is brand new. Quickly double check the FC list to see if he's been in any of those. And if anyone does know Jan Granqvist and would like to let us know what he's done in the past and a little bit about him, then that would be very much appreciated. But a great qualifying in P8, he's obviously quick. Anyway, Jakub Kalbacik will be 9th, followed by Alexander Ragosa, then Jason Muscat, Vincent Gutt, Manu Klunt, Philip Koenig, Tom Ely, Kasper Michalach, Craig Patterson, Colin Matiak, James Tuber, Dylan Platt, Vincent Kiersmakers, Liam Rance, Michal Galka, Simon Frelich, Carlos Fernandez, Scott Sovic, Kierit De Vries, Mark Fuller, Mihalio Vicentievic, and then Mika Hakimi. Hakimi has a 10-place grid penalty, which is why he's starting from the very back. And Michal Galka also has a 10-place grid penalty, which is why he's starting 23rd. So anyway, we are now on the starting grid. I'm waiting for the beginning of this formation lap. It will be a 35-minute race, and the first of two. Of course, there's going to be one mandatory pit stop, which all of the drivers will have to take, and they will have to change tyres as well. You don't just have to stop in the box. You have to change all 4 tyres as well, and you're not allowed to refuel, so all of these drivers would have calculated the exact amount of fuel that they needed to start the race on. So we are now away on the formation lap, and you're seeing once again the grid order on the screen as the cars head through the twisty. There's a lot of chicanes on this track, a lot of artificial chicanes. I think there's 4 if I'm counting correctly. You've got, of course, the first and second corners, followed by the fast sweep it. So I suppose if you do count the first and second corners, then there's about 5 natural or unnatural chicanes on this track. They're heading through the 4th of them now, and then out towards the Lepango, which is the hairpin. I hope I pronounced that more or less correct, but anyway, it's this extremely tight hairpin as well. One of the tightest hairpins on the calendar. It's only beaten, of course, by the Monaco hairpin, which isn't on the calendar, so I suppose it isn't beaten by that. And then, of course, the hairpin at the Hockenheim ring as well. And I think the Hockenheim ring is coming up later in this championship. So, in terms of the championship, the drivers you got to look out for: Chris Butcher, of course, it will be starting from 4th on the grid. Luke Maguire on pole sitter, and then Owen McGorgy is 3rd in the championship, followed by Tom Stevens and Damien Kardash. Butcher himself is on an 8-race podium streak, which is incredible, and is exactly why he's leading the championship at this point. But he'll need to gain at least 1 place if he's going to keep that podium streak alive in this particular race. In terms of tyres as well, I think that all of the top 10 are starting on the softer tyre as expected, and in fact the top non-soft runner, so the top medium runner, will be Manu Klunt, who will start on the mediums, followed by a bunch of other medium runners as well. And as expected, I don't see anyone on the full hard compound of tyre. Anyway, onto the starting grid they go. It's going to be Maguire and Kropp going from the front row of the grid. Leave your predictions in the comments if you want to, see how well they age. and in 35 laps time we will be able to assess them. Right, watch for the lights. There are going to be 5 red lights, and when they go out we will be underway for 35 laps of racing. And that begins right now. Away we go, the green light flashes, and a lot of traction from Luke Maguire's car. Kropp got a good start as well, but got balked. And up the inside is going Tom Stevens. They touch through turn 1, and they just get away with it. And McGorgy always touches them too. Now Butcher's going to be up the inside. Can he get 3rd place? I think he might well, as they go down into the first of the artificial chicanes. Butcher is up to 3rd. Butcher is up to... No, he's not. That's Stevens who's 3rd. Butcher's up to 4th place, which is where he started. Good start from Grandqvist, and then the rest of the field appear to be okay so far. A bit of smoke from one of the cars that has been sitting on the starting grid for too long, but I think that they will be okay once they get onto the straight and start ramming air through that radiator. There you see the smoke again in the background as the smoking car of Jakub Karbacic makes his way towards the hairpin, and then out onto the back straight. This is where you're going to see a lot of DRS assisted overtakes later on. And for now, Luke Maguire covers off Moritz Kropp. He is going to lead the first lap of the race. Here's the last artificial chicane of the lap. This is the really, really notorious one with the Quebec wall, the wall of champions on the outside, which they all appear to avoid on this first lap of the race. Maguire leads, followed by Kropp, Stevens, Butcher, and McGorgy, the top 5. Grandqvist is already up to 6th. That's a really good start from our brand new driver for Santon Motorsports. Then the rest of the field, Ragosa there rounding out the top 10. And into the pits at the end of the first lap came Michal Galka, and he is missing his front wing, so it wasn't an entirely clean first lap. It looked to be relatively clean, although Galka's been caught out somewhere and somehow. Anyway, let's catch our breath for a minute as they slot into line. Temporarily, they're all going to go at it again as soon as they get onto the straight. I can feel it, and as soon as the DRS becomes available, of course, as well. And on the second lap, we're actually approaching that straight now. It's a relatively short track here at Montreal. As a result, as soon as you've left the straight, it feels like you're straight back onto it again. Down this straight they go. Butcher slipstreaming Stevens. Takes a look to the inside, too far back for the time being, but you wait until the DRS is in play, because he is well within that 1 second buffer that he needs in order to take the DRS. And there's another DRS zone as well, which is of course the start-finish straight, the one after the Quebec wall and before turn 1. Luke Maguire appears to have broken the buffer. He's 1 second ahead of Moritz Kropp, but only just. It's certainly not safe, and he can't allow himself to get complacent just yet. Kropp, of course, a winner in the series already. He won race 2 in Italy, and last time we got a brand new winner as well, Alexander Ragosa, who won race 2 in the PZZW Racing Team car. So, towards the straight we go, and this is one of the most crucial laps of the race, lap 3, because this is when the DRS is available for the very first time. The drag reduction system allowing much easier overtaking opportunities. Butcher is the first car to get it, because Stevens and Kropp have lost. No, Kropp got it as well, but only just, and may not get it on the next couple of laps. He does have it out of the final turn, and opens it wide, but that's mainly just to keep up with Luke Maguire for the time being. So another lap completed, and still many more to go. Moritz Kropp, fastest lap of the race so far on the last time around. Not really saying much, but only 4 laps in, and that's to be expected because of course he had the DRS as. And that was for the first time in this race. Shimon Frelich, I'm afraid, has just retired. He has become... So Liam Rant has gone into the Quebec wall with Shimon Frelick, and that's because of a collision with Scott Sovic. Now, Scott Sovic appears to have got away with it okay. Rance has lost his front wing, and Frelick has retired from this race in a big way. And it appears that someone else was involved as well, although, yes, indeed, someone else did get involved, although they appear to have got away with it as well. Let's get back to the action then. Maguire completes another lap in the lead, and the top 5 will appear to have stayed in the same order. The top 6, McGorgy was the fastest of them that last time, and a spin, and that's Krop. Krop's gone around. Krop is the first of the top 5 to spin, to blink, and he's touched the wall. I think he'll get away without too much damage. That was a very light tap, but the first major mistake of the race. He took too much curb, and that curb's not a particularly nasty one, but it was nasty for Krop because it's pitched him into a spin. So Krop now down into 7th position in this race, putting Stevens up a place and putting Butcher on to the podium in the early stages. Rance came into the pits that last time around, and so did De Vries. Those were the 2 other drivers involved in the Shimon Frelick accident. And I'm going to take a quick look back to see what happened to Michal Galka on the first lap of the race, just because I'm curious. I didn't see any accidents on the first lap, but Galka, of course, came back into the pits without a front wing, and that appears to have happened quite early on in the lap. Actually, I think it may have been a kerfuffle coming out of turn 2. It was only a minor kerfuffle, not too many cars were involved, but yes, indeed, he was actually touched from behind by Vincent Keersmakers, and the 2 of them had a big spin. Back to the present day, the present second in the race, more accurately. Maguire now has a 2-second lead over Stevens. That's of course because Krop was second before, and now it's Stevens 2 seconds behind. Then it's Butcher and McGorgy who are fighting, and look at Jan Grandqvist impressing everyone in 5th position in Santon Motorsports car. Who's he replacing at Santon Motorsports? I'll see if I can suss that out later on. It appears to be potentially Jake Dennehan. Let me double check to see if Dennehan's here today. I don't think so. So I think that he is replacing Jake Dennehan in that car. I'm not sure of the reason why, but anyway, welcome in to Jan Grandqvist, who is doing a very good job on what I think is his Supercup debut. It's definitely his Supercup debut for this particular season. So the race continues. Luke Maguire leading, followed by Stevens. Now we're a long way from the pit cycle still, but keep that in mind, because even if things start to settle down now, it's by no means the end of the action. I know Clunt, I think, just lost a couple of places coming down to the final turn, maybe slower on the straight, and Muscat is side by side with Ely for 12th position. Ely on the harder compound of tyre, struggling to fight with Jason there. At least in these early stages, he does have a strategic advantage, because if you can put yourself right behind a softer tyred runner on harder tyres, then you of course have the advantage in the pit stages. You'll be on the softer tyre and can fly afterwards. He has the DRS. He's going to the outside of Muscat, who also has the DRS. That, of course, the lesser known DRS zone on the track. All of these drivers know it, and all of them will be using it. But it's one of lesser importance than the other 2, especially the one on the long start-finish, or not start-finish straight, but the straight before. Oh, big slide for Ely, and he might lose out to Kasper Michalak in all of that. Michalak goes through. Ely and Michalak will both have DRS, as will Clunt behind them, and well, he won't quite make it 3 wide. Ooh, Gaspin almost shut the door. He did shut the door, and Ely went for a big bounce over the sausage curbs, which will allow Menno Klon up into 14th position at the end of the... Oh, and a big slide, big slide, and he's going to run into him. He's hit him in the side. Ely spins. Oh, and he's taken off Craig Patterson, and a big kerfuffle down at turn 2. Fernandez is involved. No, Fernandez just gets through. but there were many cars involved in that. Dylan Platt was the other car that spun, and Ely took the brunt of the impact, losing both his front and rear wings. And he is going to have to spend a lot of time in the pits. And look at Butcher challenging Stevens. He's caught him up. He's caught him up for second position, and he's going to go for it down the back straight. Last time round, he set the fastest lap time of anyone, and now he is going to go for second position in the race. The DRS opens wide. He slightly balked himself coming out of the final corner, out of the hairpin, but now out of the final corner he'll have another chance. That looked like a bit of a better exit. Didn't quite put the power down as quickly, but it was a lot more steady towards turn 1, and still it's Stevens, but that's close. That's very, very close, and I'm surprised because I thought the Butcher was going to go up the inside of Stevens into that hairpin there. So another lap with the top 3 in the same order, but only just, as it looked as if it was all going to change that last time around. Craig Patterson, meanwhile, did make it back to the pits with his wings missing. Carlos Fernandez, I'm afraid, didn't. So Carlos Fernandez, who got a bit of a wallop in that little fight, has retired from the race. Although it appears to be a disconnection, actually, from what I've just seen on replay. Not sure entirely how accurate that is. And Vincent Kiersmakers, I'm afraid, is another retirement from this race. He returned to the pits a couple of laps ago with a missing front wing, and I'm not entirely sure how that happened because I don't think he was involved in the accident that we witnessed before, but as I said before, I may be entirely wrong. Looks as if he was, unless that was a completely different accident. It may have been a collision with Mika Hakimi. Yes, indeed, he spun in the second chicane, and Hakimi had nowhere to go. That's a very typical Montreal style accident, and it's taken Kiersmakers out of the race, and Hakimi's still in it, but he's been through the pit lane and is a lap down. So I've just seen a move as well, or at least in the order between, I think Gert and Muscat just changed places. Look at Michalak, big dive up the inside. They're going to touch, aren't they, into turn 2. Muscat was so, well, that car looked really, really nimble through turn 2 there. He was able to get it turned in as if it was not on rails, but as if it was doing exactly what he asked of it. And that's kept him in 12th position for the time being. Similarly liveried, in my opinion, Vincent Gutkart, Red Arrow Racing entry up ahead, holding 11th position as it stands. Michalak and Muscat both with the DRS. But as I said before, that's not normally an overtaking opportunity, even with the DRS active. The train of cars... Oh, and actually, Stevens and Butcher have caught up some traffic there, and that's given Stevens some DRS as well as Butcher, possibly putting that battle on stalemate for the time being. Unless he held Stevens up a little bit before that hairpin there. Damien Kardash is catching him, isn't he? He wasn't involved in this fight before, but he's almost on the back of Jan Granqvist now. He has the DRS, so he's in that buffer. And of course, with the incidents that we've seen so far in the race, lap traffic may well come into more of an effect later on. The next driver to be put a lap down will be Gerrit de Vries at this rate. Now, Tom Ely, I'm afraid, is also out of the race, and that's no big surprise, because the last time we saw him, he was missing both of his wings. And it looks as if he did make it back to the pits, and he did rejoin the race, but being a lap down and being... potentially still struggling from suspension damage or whatever, he has elected to pull out of this race, so we have 26 of our 30 starters still remaining. Now, Stevens and Butcher once again are heading onto the straight, although Butcher appeared to be a little twitchy out of the corner that last time around. Maguire now has a 3-second advantage over Stevens, and that's partly due to the help that he's receiving from Butcher attacking and holding up Tom Stevens further behind. So some team strategy here, even if it's not intentional. And that is a comfortable buffer there for Luke Maguire. So onto another lap. Stevens still just ahead of Chris Butcher. Butcher's still one of the fastest cars on the circuit as we speak. And look at that, Damien Kardash really has caught up to this chain, hasn't he? We've got a 5-car chain for second position. And this battle could go all the way to the end, because it looks just that ferocious. I'm not sure who is going to be remaining in this fight towards the end of the race, although I wouldn't be surprised if at least some of them are still wheel to wheel or thing when this race reaches its conclusion. Still got a long way to go before that though. Remember, still a pit stop and everything to do with that. And strategy still to come as well. Look back at the YouTube comments. Interestingly, Grankvist is replacing Blake Checketts apparently, although I also don't see Jake Dennehan here. Now I missed that spin for Jason Muscat that you've just seen, so you saw a spin a couple of seconds ago. And I think we're about to see a move for P2. We are indeed. Butcher takes a look to the outside. And towards turn 1, he's on the inside line. No, I'm behind. I've had some lagging issues. But Butcher and Stevens were fighting all the way down the straight into turns 1 and 2 there. My apologies for missing that. But Butcher was right there. And Stevens has just managed to fend him off. Good defensive driving from Tom Stevens. And somehow he's still in that P2 position, stopping it from being a THR 1-2. This race, very much THR versus HGP, as we've seen for the last few race ones. Oh, wide goes McGorgy, and wide as well. And look at, well, where's Jan Grankvist? Grankvist dropped behind Kardash, so Kardash has got through. Grankvist is going to come back through on the straight, it seems. He goes to the inside. Damien was doing his best to make sure that wasn't a possibility, but he has to concede. So Grankvist does get back through into P5. That was really good racecraft there for Grankvist. He saw that the gap was still being left slightly open, and he thought, well, if it's open, I might as well go for it. And Kardash realised far too late that he'd made a mistake in leaving the door just wide enough for a Jan Grankvist style car. But yeah, it looks as if Santon has indeed replaced Blake Checketts with Jan Grankvist. And Jakub Kalbarczyk is still there in P9. I was just looking back to see if anyone had heard of Jan Grankvist. Marco Furlich says that he did one academy race and got a podium on track in FC on his debut. So not bad at all, not bad at all. And he's now a primary driver at Santon. Yep, that sounds about right. That's about what I was expecting. And he appears to be pretty good as well, because this has been an impressive debut, especially in terms of his racecraft for Jan Grankvist. Very close for P3 there. McGorgy will elect to defend the team's podium position by attacking Chris Butcher. As I was saying before, it's THR versus HGP here. The order goes THR, HGP, THR, HGP. And we've seen that a lot in this championship so far. And even though THR is leading this championship by a little bit of a way now, as a result of their drivers' just better consistency, HGP have been taking wins off them. They've taken 3 wins in total to THR's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 so far. And no other team has yet won 2 races in this championship. So those are the 2 teams who are running away with it at this point in time. Under the bridge, that's another... Oh, McGorgy there missed... just a little while ago, McGorgy missed the turn-in for one of the chicanes. Cut straight across. I don't think he gained advantage from it, but shouldn't do that too much, because otherwise he may caught the eye of the stewards. Onto another lap of racing. Lap 16 they're on now, out of 35. And surely we're about to get into the range of pit stops and pit stop strategies. And that will be playing on all of the drivers' minds. They'll know that it's coming up. And right now it's about setting themselves up for that with flying in laps and then flying out laps. Kasper Michalak has already pitted, one of the first drivers in the points to come in, and also in is Scott Sobeck, and potentially some other drivers further back as well. But still, we're yet to see any of the drivers in the top orders. The drivers fighting for a P2 per se, to come into the pits. Down the straight once again, Stevens and Butcher. Butcher once again with the wing wide open. Does he elect to pit? Now, this track here at Montreal has a bit of a quirk where sometimes you don't want to pit when you're stuck behind another car, and that's unusual, as into the pits comes Damien Kardash from P6. Now that's unusual because normally if you're stuck behind someone, it's better to come into the pits and get yourself some clean air if you can. But here at Montreal, the pit entry is poised in such a way that you can push flat out into the pits unless there's someone in front of you. So if there's someone in front of you, you often don't want to come into the pits, because otherwise you'll lose time by having to back off on pit entry. And yes, that'll only be a little bit of a time, but if you do it right, if you do the pit entry right, that could be up to maybe half a second, I'd estimate. But yeah, the best thing is when you want to pit at Montreal and you have an absolutely clean track in front of you, because you can absolutely bomb it in, and you just have to make sure that you're slow enough by the time you reach the pit lane. As we watch, look at Moritz Kropp and Fabian Ruth going at it for a P6 there. They were just side by side in the corner. Ruth up to 6th place. He had a pretty good qualifying by for the Red Arrow Racing team there, and into the pits ahead of him come McGorgy and Grandqvist. So both of those drivers are in the same lap. Moritz Kropp also electing to pit. Looked relatively late for Moritz, although goes on to the harder compound tire, and side by side in the pits are Grandqvist and McGorgy, and Grandqvist comes out behind, so McGorgy will be just ahead as he was as they came into the pits. Grandqvist got slightly closer, and they will be free to fight on their outlap and for the rest of the race if they can keep in those positions. That's now 8th and 9th on track, but surely will be a lot closer later on. Now what about Maguire, Stevens and Butcher? Still the top 3 have been, big slide, big twitch for Butcher out of the hairpin. He won't get an opportunity to pass Stevens this time around. Stevens has always appeared to have slightly more traction out of corners than Chris Butcher. That may be because Butcher is in the dirty air, the turbulent air of Stevens' car, but it may also be to do with the setups that they're running. Across the start-finish line they go. The gap stays almost exactly the same. They set almost exactly the same lap there. Kalbarczyk into the pits from 5th on the road. Vincent Guttin from right behind him. And will Philip Koenig go through to take P5? Yes, he does. And Koenig is one of the drivers who started on the harder compound of tyre. He's actually the highest placed driver on the hard tyres at this point in the race. McGorgy and Jan Grandqvist are catching him fast after their pit stops, although Koenig will still be the highest placed driver who started on the harder tyres at least. They are technically the medium tyre, as there is a harder compound available, although pretty much no one uses that, so it's better to just see them as the harder compound of tyre. Down the back straight once again, Stevens and Butcher. The gap is about half a second. To pull a move, it needs to be about 4, maybe 3.5 tenths, maybe a little bit closer. Stevens pits. Stevens comes in, takes advantage of that clean track in front of him that I was talking about, and he will go into the hards. Now, where does he come out in relation to Magorgi and Grankvist? Because those two have been pushing for a couple of laps now on fresh tyres. And Stevens did have the softer tyres and clean air, which theoretically should have been faster, but not. The tyres had gone off too much. Out of the pits he come. Behind him, Ruth and Koenig are both pitting. Where's Magorgi? Well, I think Stevens is still going to be ahead of Magorgi. He will indeed, especially with that big twitch Magorgi just suffered from. And that gap is maybe about the same as it was before, maybe a little bit wider. I think it is a little bit wider, actually. So Stevens gaining from the overcut as a result of the softer tyres and the cleaner air. Now, Maguire is first, followed by Butcher. Stevens still came out in third place despite the pit stop, which is how you knew he was far enough ahead of his opposition. And runs wide. He misses the chicane. He missed the chicane, and he's going to have to give up some time in that. So a mistake from Stevens, one of the first we've seen. Magorgi did that earlier on. He's back on the road. Look at Grankvist. Grankvist really bringing the fight to the HGP and THR guys here. Chris Butcher into the pits. And now this is really important because Butcher and Stevens were just fighting. Now, if Butcher can overcut Stevens, then he will take second position in this race. Out of the pits he goes. This is going to be very close. It was close before they came in. Stevens might just take this, you know. They're into turn 2. And Stevens is too far back. And that means that Chris Butcher has overcut Tom Stevens and taken second position in this race. Good strategy call from Chris Butcher to stay out one lap longer than Tom Stevens, because clearly the softer tyre helped him to stay ahead, or to get ahead rather. It's a THR 1-2, followed by the 2 HGP Motorsport guys. Every round it seems that the HGP, well, the championship is slipping away from HGP, despite their insane pace and their relative consistency. Of course, they had a bit of a dip around about India and Azerbaijan, although they've still been very consistent. That was mainly poor luck and a couple of brake failures at Azerbaijan. But anyway, Maguire now into the pits from the lead, and he will comfortably have the lead still as he exits the pits. We'll wait to see what the gap is, but it would have come out further because of Butcher having to get past Stevens in the pit stages. Meanwhile, behind, Krop and Kardash just went side by side. Big slide for Kardash. He saves it, and Krop is through to 7th on the road. Into the pits came Muscat as well, so Muscat came in, putting Ragosa back into the top 10. The gap for the lead is about 6.3 seconds, so that's where it stands. And the gap for second is already out to over a second, so that means that Tom Stevens will no longer benefit from DRS. And Magorgi's actually not in DRS range of Stevens just yet. Or he might just get in there before the next DRS range. He doesn't get in for this one. Jan Grankvist is right there. In fact, Grankvist is the highest attacking driver in the field. He's the highest driver in DRS range of the car in front of them. Could Jan Grankvist get a podium on his Supercup debut? That would be an incredible story. He is right on the back of both of the HGP cars, but needs to get past one before he can get past the other. So, after 22 laps, it's Maguire leading from Butcher, then Stevens, Magorgi. Grankvist is best of the rest behind the THRs and HGPs, and what a race he's having so far. Fabian Ruth is P6, then it's Moritz Krop, Damian Kardash, Jakub Kalbarczyk, and Alexander Ragosa, the top 10. Vincent Gutt is just outside of the top 10, followed by Philip Koenig, Jason Muscat, who's just exited the pits. Colin Matiak may be on course for the first points for PB Racing this season. That depends on whether he stopped or not. I think he has. So I reckon that Matiak is just having a good race so far. Yes, indeed, he stopped on lap 18. So Matiak in the points, and so long as he can hold that, he will score the first for PB Racing this season. Then it's James Hubert with the last points paying position in P15, but he is under heavy surveillance by Menno Klont in the second Multiforce car. Also, Craig Patterson just pitting for the second time down behind. Now, as we look, let's take a look at Granqvist and McGorgy quickly. Let's see if Granqvist can get closer to McGorgy down the straight. I'm not suggesting that he'll be in attacking range. It may depend on how good McGorgy is through the chicane here, which is, in my opinion, a most difficult sequence of corners on the track. Granqvist was better through that. He's gonna come out behind, but still plenty of time left in this race, over 10 laps to go. So still, Jan Granqvist has a chance to spoil the THR HGP party here. Let's take a look at the rest of the field. I'm afraid we've had 2 more retirements since the last time I spoke, Kasper Michalak and Liam Rance. Now Kasper retired just after a pit stop, it seems. It looks as if he may have had a disconnection or may have given up, because I don't think he had an accident. There was an accident that he avoided on pit exit. It looked like Gerard de Vries going for a bit of a spin. That was about 7 laps ago. And then Liam Rance's. Now Liam Rance, of course, had already made a pit stop for damage repairs as a result of an accident with another driver. And I think something's going on out in front. We've got Granqvist going for 4th, is he? And they're side by side towards the chicane. He's on the inside, and McGorgy's going to have to yield, because you can't go 2 cars at the same time through there. And Granqvist gets a great drive, great drive out of the hairpin towards turn 1. McGorgy coming back at him to the outside. He'll have the inside. He keeps it within the lines. McGorgy is not done yet. He'll have the inside again. This is great racecraft. I wasn't sure who was going to yield then, but McGorgy gets 4th. Granqvist gets a great run though. Once again, he's forced to the dirty part of the track. Does go for a launch. And Fabian Ruth is right there. And a switchback. A really good switchback for Jan Granqvist. He gets the DRS open once again. He'll be on the inside line. And shows McGorgy is not going to yield. McGorgy cuts the turn. Granqvist is still there. He touches the wall. Ruth is right there too. Granqvist will be on the inside. He does not like yielding for corners. Now he was ahead when they crossed the DRS detection line, so McGorgy will be faster down the straight. No, he's not. Look at that. That was the wrong line. So Granqvist does have the DRS open still. Granqvist will have 4th, surely, unless McGorgy can do to him what he did a lap ago. Granqvist still has the DRS out of the corner. There's not a separate activation zone there. Amazing driving, and that was one of the best sustained overtakes of the race so far from Jan Granqvist. One of the best that I've seen in this series so far. What a performance! He is making his name known. Now they're coming up to a back marker here. That's one of the ST Racing cars. Who they're going to put a lap down. It's either Vicentievich or Fuller. And hopefully he sees them coming. Oh, big twitch, and McGorgy once again cuts the corner. He's got that one a couple of times now. Doesn't gain advantage from what I could see. Doesn't lose out either, but anyway, ooh. I love riding just behind McGorgy's car and seeing the nose of Ruth coming into view. Shows you how close he is. Past the ST Racing car they go. They all get DRS. Ruth opened it quite late there. And he's got Moritz Kropp right on his tail. I was a little wonky from Granqvist coming out of the final turn there, but he's going to get away with it. He's going to be okay. And lives to see another day in the same position. We're into the final 10 laps now, and these are the laps that fly past as a commentator. As a driver, it sometimes feels like they go on forever, especially when you're leading the race at the time. Now, Are they going to change again, or is that the lot in that battle? I struggle to think that it will be, because Krop and Ruth are right there, and Damien Kardash there as well. And after Kardash dropped back a little bit earlier on in this race, I wasn't expecting to see him this close to a HGP car again in this race, but he's there. Or it's Krop as well. Let's not forget he had a spin earlier on, so he's done well to get himself back up to 7th. Here comes Kardash, gets a run. Not sure why he didn't go for it there. I think he could have got himself fully ahead. Well, not fully ahead, but I think he could have got his nose ahead by the time they got to the corner. But anyway, stays 8th. On hindsight, maybe he would have been a bit too far back. We've got another back market coming up here. The other ST racing car that they're all clearing. And that seems to have been clean. That's good to see. That was Mark Fuller. Scott Sovic is not too far up the road, so they need to be careful of that. What a race we're witnessing so far. This is really, really exciting stuff from Supercup. And remember, we still have another race to go. We still have an action-packed, partially reverse gridded second race. So it's definitely worth not going anywhere, even when this race comes to a close. I wonder what these drivers will have to say after this event as well. Whether they'll even be able to remember what happened. Down the back straight. And Magorgi is not letting Grangfist get away here, is he? He's closer to Grangfist than he was a couple of laps ago, and closer to Grangfist than anyone else is to anyone else, pretty much. Except for Krop and Ruth coming out that last turn. Look at those two. And Ruth there certainly feeling the pressure from Krop. You could tell that by how tight he went into turn 2. And the little touch of the grass, a little puff of dirt that came up into the air. That is chief car body language for, oh no, I've got a car filling my mirrors. We're on lap 29 of 35. That's how far through this race we are. And how relatively close we are to the finish. And a big slide and wide goes Krop, so Krop misses the turn. Kardash will get the advantage from that. He'll have the DRS from Krop down the back straight, and the start finish straight presumably. Here we go then. Does he get a good enough run? Up ahead of him actually. Oh, and look at Magorgi. Magorgi goes for it. Magorgi gets back through on Jan Grangfist for P4. Kardash was not able to get past Krop, but Magorgi was able to get back past Jan Grangfist. That is proof, if you needed one, that these two cars are really evenly matched at this point in the race. Grangfist past Magorgi, Magorgi past Grangfist, then vice versa, and then vice versa again. This is an excellent battle. Second HGP car, and the best of the rest car of Jan Grangfist. Through the second, or the third chicane, I should call that one. Here we go. Or fourth, I suppose. It depends if you count the turns 1 and 2 complex as an artificial chicane. I don't think I would necessarily. But that's irrelevant because we're about to see another overtake potentially. Onto the back straight they go. Grangfist gaining. He'll be too far back there. And so is Kardash. From Krop. Ruth and Krop both kind of biding their time for the time being. It's all they can do. Wait to see the outcome of Magorgi versus Grangfist ahead of them, because they don't quite yet have the pace to get involved. Ruth might well but only if these two hold each other up a little bit more. Lap 31, the timer ticking down, this race not being, well, it is technically being timed, although it won't come down to that. It will come down to the number of laps. I think that may be another bit of traffic up ahead of them, or it may just be, no, that is some traffic coming up. They're going to catch whoever that is before the end of this race. We've lost another driver from this race, Mihailo Vicentijevic. I'll take a look at that in a bit, but let's take a look at Jan Grankvist first. Once again, getting closer and closer to Magorgi down the straight. What about the exit here? Oh good, that was a bit of a slide there for Jan Grankvist. Did well to hold it, but didn't get a good drive. And judging by how close he is into turn 1 there, he probably would have pulled it if he'd got a better in that. Or better exit, rather. I want to quickly have a look at Vicentijevic. Kasper Miklar also out of the race. Not sure if I did say that before or if I didn't. Now, Vicentijevic had an accident. He had both of his wings missing, and that appears to have happened. He cut across the chicane that Magorgi's been struggling with, bounced over the sausage curbs, and hit the wall. So that's the end of the day now for Mihailo Vicentijevic. Let's take a look back to the front before anything else changes, and watch Jan Grankvist all over the back of Owen Magorgi. Ruth, Krop and Kardash in close attendance, and Kobacic gaining. Kobacic actually is under pressure from Ragosa here. Down the straight once again. Little bit too much for gap, I'd say. Kardash may lose DRS from Ruth in a little while. He still just about has it. Only just though. Also a battle going on between Ragosa, Koenig and Gut. That's for P11. Gut's gonna get that. For the time being at least. Makes that one stick. So, lap 33 now, out of 35. Is this going to come down to the last lap between Magorgi and Grankvist for 4th position in this race? Oh, it comes! Well, it's happened now! Magorgi goes across chicane once again. It looks as if he did gain time there, so he's going to have to back off and lose it again. Magorgi is all over the place. Something's happened to Magorgi. It looks as if he's having brake failure. Magorgi is out of the race from 4th position, and he retires. I thought something was weird. He looked to be very wonky into the chicane that time, and then went straight on at the hairpin, and it appears that, as in Baku, he's been struggling with his brakes. For Magorgi, I want to take a quick look back at that. Yeah, the front right was locking up, indicating potentially that maybe the front left brake had failed, maybe the rear left or something along those lines, but one of his brakes had failed. Not all of them. The lockup had indicated that it wasn't a total brake failure, but he lost some of them. His front right was locking up, the car was uncontrollable, and off he went, and out of the race. That's it for Magorgi. That is a big shame, because what a fight we were witnessing between him and Jan Grankvist. And that means that Grankvist will almost definitely now be the best of the rest. Although I tell you what, as soon as I say that, Ruth caught up to him, so he's got to hold him off. Krop and Kardash still outside shouts for that position. Kardash are very much an outside shout now because he has lost DRS. Now there is a car coming up ahead of them. There is a lapped vehicle. That might be Scott Servik, because it's not Michal Galka. Indeed it is Scott Servik. Grankvist was okay there, not under the pressure from Ruth down that straight. On to the final lap now goes Luke Maguire. just has half a lap to go. Just quickly, we did lose another car at around the same time that we lost Magorgi. Gerrit de Vries is out of this race. Don't worry, I will go back to look at the finishers before they cross the line. But yeah, Gerrit de Vries have retired now. He wasn't running inside of the points, and I think he has decided that enough is enough. So back to the lead. Maguire is about to win this Super Cup race at Montreal. He just has a couple of corners left, and then it will all be over. Granqvist and Ruth are really, really close. I hope we don't miss that towards the end. Luke Maguire out through the final corners. He's done everything that he's needed to, and he's going to win here at Montreal. He wins race 1 and gets closer to Butcher in the championship. Butcher will be P2. That is how they finish. It is a THR 1-2 at the end of the day. Now let's look back to the drivers behind. It's going to be Stevens who holds on to 3rd place. Granqvist just holds on to 4th. It'll be Fabian Ruth who tried his best but didn't quite get that 4th place away. Moritz Kropp is P6. Damien Kardash P7. Then it's Jakub Kalbarczyk, Alexander Ragosa, Philip Koenig, then Vincent Gutt, Jason Muscat, James Zuber. Colin Matiak is going to claim the first points for PB Racing this season. Great job for Colin Matiak in a team that doesn't have the best setups and all the most experienced drivers. So Colin Matiak is going to claim that position, and I tell you what, he wasn't too far away from James Zuber at the end of that as well. So he weaves across the line, obviously exuberated by that win, and so he should be. Menno Klunt is P15, and then it's Craig Patterson, first driver on the lead lap of the race after 2 pit stops. Didn't do a bad job to finish on the lead lap, and he will, of course, start from a better position than if he just retired. A lap down but finishing with Michal Galka, Scott Sovic, Dylan Platt, Mark Fuller and Mika Hakimi. And then out of the race were Owen Magorgi, sadly, very sadly, Gerrit de Vries, Mahaljev Zendijevich, Kasper Michalak, Liam Ruds, Tom Ely, Carlos Fernandez, Vincent Kiersmakers, and then Shimon Frelick, who was the first retirement from the race. So ultimately we had 21 finishers from 30 starters. That was an exciting race. That one, though it didn't go down to the end for the podium positions, it had action all the way through, it had intrigue, and now it has a finishing order, and it's a THR 1-2 once again. So we're going to go for a quick break now, and we will be back in maybe 5 to 10 minutes for race 2. It's going to be a partially reversed grid, so don't go anywhere, and we will see you then. Welcome back everyone to GPVWC Supercup. We're just about to get underway for race 2 of the day, and we're coming to the end of the brief warm-up session before the start. The reverse grid number will be 8, meaning Jakub Kalbarczyk will have pole position for this second race here, and it will mean that our winner from race 1 will have to come all the way from 8th position. That was, of course, a randomly drawn number between 6 and 10, meaning that the top 8 cars will be reversed. The drivers who finished 8th in race 1 will start first. The drivers who finished 7th will start second, etc., etc. You get the picture. It will be Kalbarczyk on pole. Damien Kardash will be second, followed by. In fact, let me do it in time with the broadcast machine for once. But anyway, as soon as we see that, I'll run you through it for real. But anyway, this is going to be a shorter race. It's going to be 23 23 laps, sorry. So over 23 minutes, but still shorter than race 1. And there will be no mandatory pit stop. If you've seen this before, then you know how it works. You know the rules. Anyway, we're getting ready to get underway for the formation lap for race 2 here with GPVWC Supercup. And then, of course, the 23-lap race. Put your predictions in the comments. Honestly, it could be any of these drivers, especially the top 8. That is the magic number that you've got to be looking out for. Moritz Krop's got to be a good shout. Of course, he finished slightly further down than he maybe would have done because of the penalties. And you can see where he's starting now, actually, on the starting grid, because we're about to take a look as the cars head into the first few corners. So Jakub Kalbarczyk will lead us away, followed by Damian Kardash, Moritz Krop starting from third, and then Fabian Ruth starting from fourth place. Fifth place is going to be Jan Grangqvist on his debut in the series, so 2 Santons in the top 5. Then it's Tom Stevens, Chris Butcher, and Luke Maguire, the THR guys, coming from 7th and 8th. 9th place is going to be Alexander Rogota, then Philip Koenig, Vincent Gutt, and Jason Muscat, the top 12. Following that is going to be James Zuber and Colin Matiak, who scored PV Racing's first point of the season. Then Menno Klont and Craig Patterson. Michal Galka will be P17, followed by Scott Sovic, Dylan Platt, and Mark Fuller. And then we get into the less fortunate drivers from race 2. Mika Hakimi was the last finisher, and then we have the DNFs. Owen McGorky will make race 2 despite the brake failure here at De Vries, and then Halje Vicentijevic also DNF'd. And it's Kasper Mikulach, Tom Ely, Carlos Fernandez, and Vincent Kiersmakers. And the final car on the grid will be Shimon Frelick, so I think we've lost someone, not entirely sure who, but one driver has not come back for the restart. And if you have a faster mind than me and can figure out who it is, please let me know. So anyway, to the grid go the 29 cars, weaving to get tyre temperature to rise. That was closer, actually, as Kalbarczyk continued to weave alongside Damian Kardash. A little bit worrying. Now trying to put heat in the rear tyres and the brakes as he stops on his grid box. And everyone else files in behind. Shimon Frelick will come away from last position and will be hoping to make his way slightly higher up the order. I think he overshot his box there. Yep, he did, and he reverses into it. So, once again, we wait for the red lights, and when they go out, we'll be underway for another race of GPVWC action, and it's go! It's go at Montreal! And a good start from Moritz Krop from third position. He'll be second into turn 1, but Kardash gets the inside line, so Kardash will be P2. Kalbarczyk gets the best start of everyone. He will lead away, as behind him, second is still disputed. Into the chicane they go, they touch, they bang wheels, and they very nearly don't get away with it. And I still don't know if they will, because they're battling as they have been for this entire race so far. Once again, we got smoke behind. Oh, they do come together. Well, that was predictable. What wasn't predictable is that they all have their wings still attached. My goodness. Anyway, Kalbarczyk has a huge lead as a result of that. Moritz Krop, then Damian Kardash, Fabian Ruth, and the rest of them. Butcher went across, or was it Maguire who went across the runoff area there? One of the 2 THR guys did. Now into the hairpin again. This is going to get tight. That's very, very tight. I think they might all be okay. Let's keep looking further back, see if they will make it. Hakimi forced over the grass a little bit, but it seems that they're all okay. Just about. Into the chicane. Let's see what Kalbarczyk's gap is at the end of this lap. It's going to be huge. At least for a first lap it is. But will the rest of the field begin to reel him in? Or does he have the pace to stay in front? It's 2.7 seconds for a first lap. That is quite a lot. And that is as a result of Krop and Kardash not wanting to give way to the other one. And coming together and losing time. Sweeping through the back part of the circuit, go Kardash, Ruth, Stevens, etc. Race 1 winner Luke Maguire is still only 8th, and the top 8 appear to be in pretty much the same order that they finished in, albeit with Krop now ahead of Kardash. Butcher taking a look at Grangqvist. Not close enough. That's a difficult part of the track. That's quite a dangerous part of the circuit. Even Lewis Hamilton has crashed there. Talking of crashes, someone just spun in the background. Philip Koenig, I'm afraid. Appears to still have his wings about him, but had a big spin and has dropped out of the points-paying positions as we watch. Oh, McGorky's out of the race! Oh no! And Colin Mattiak's been into the pits! Well, I didn't see what happened. I'll update you in a bit once it all calms down a little. But Owen McGorgy is our first retirement, and it's a double DNF for the second HGP car. That is a huge shame. Very unlucky too, especially considering the race 1 incident at least was clearly not directly his fault. Of course, you could say, well, he could have been, you know, more conservative on his brakes, on his setup maybe. But you know, McGorgy's a racer. It wasn't directly his fault anyway, and I'm afraid his race 2 has not gone any better for him. Onto the third lap of the race. This is when DRS may come into play, and the biggest benefactors from it will be probably Ruth on the back of Kardash, because there's too much of a gap between P1 and P2, and then of course P2 and P3. So the battle here is for P3 and back. Onto the straight as well, we've got the two THR guys both wanting to get through and gain positions from their starting positions as well. Ruth with the DRS, he's the first driver to get it this race. And certainly won't be the last, because he is leading a whole chain which encompasses pretty much the rest of the field. No one really going side by side, no one daring this time round into the straight, except for a few people just outside of the points, Fuller, Fernandez, etc. But everyone inside of the points not able to make it work. I'll have a quick look back at what happened to McGorgy just to see how his race 2 ended. It appears to have ended in an accident, because he didn't have all of his wings on his car when he escaped out of the session, and it was a big crash coming down into the last chicane. And I'm afraid it was his fault, because he misjudged the cars in front of him and ran straight into the back of Colin Mattiak. So that's the lot for Owen McGorgy. That isn't a lot for the rest of the drivers in points-paying positions. We have, going down into the hairpin, look how close that is for some of the THR guys. Maguire is in danger of dropping out of the top 8 here. Muscat is all over the back of them. I wonder if there's a kind of Mercedes situation going on here, where the THRs are excellent in terms of their pace, as we look at Ruth going at Kardash and gaining 3rd position. He gets it done. Well done to Fabian Ruth. That was a good move. But yeah, I wonder if it's maybe that the THR guys are good on their own, but when they reach traffic, they struggle, like Mercedes did in 2016, 17, etc. So that was a very close one down into turn 1, as Muscat almost got into the top 8. Who's that dropping down the order? Vincent Gutt, I'm afraid, has spun out of turn 1. So he is dropping significantly. Spun out of turn 2, it seems. And that is as a result of contact, potentially. Yes, indeed. It appears he got hit from behind by Michal Galka. Galka, meanwhile, has also dropped down the order. Carlos Fernandez is the second retirement of the day, I'm afraid. So 27, or of the race, sorry, because we had plenty of retirements in race 1 earlier on. So we have 27 drivers, and now we've lost Vincent Kiersmakers. I just got a glimpse of him in the barriers, and he's had an incident down at the hairpin. It looks as if he was going for a move on Kasper Michalak, misjudged it and hit the barriers. So out of the race now goes Vincent Kiersmakers. And is someone else now dropping, potentially? Not sure. Anyway, so Ruth Kardash and Stevens, the top fight here. This is for 3rd position, with Grankvist, Butcher and Maguire following them through, who all do appear to be struggling to make overtakes. Now, another reason for that may well be because the top 8 were just so competitive in race 1. and there just isn't as much of a difference between first and eighth position as there would be at other rounds or in other series. That's definitely a possibility, because all of these drivers are very, very good. And I can tell you from experience, having raced in Formula Challenge, that even drivers at that level are almost insanely good, especially at the front of the field. So I can barely imagine what these drivers must be like in Supercup. Across the line into turn 1. All single file still, that's interesting. I really thought that it would have kicked off a bit more so far in this race. But the only real change in the top 8 is that Kardash has dropped 2 positions. Over the grass, that's a difficult section of the course. I'm going to quickly have a look back to see what happened to Carlos Fernandez, since that was never sussed out. But he was running quite a way down at the down the field, so it may have been that he just got involved in someone else's accident, or maybe caused his own. I'm afraid it appears to have been another disconnection, much like the one he had in race 1. So Fernandez struggling with his internet today, and it's taken him out of 2 races out of 2, which must suck to say the least. Onto the back straight. DRS, Kardash, Stevens, Granqvist, Butcher, Maguire, Muscat, Ragosa, and that's a lot for this bunch. But still, no one quite close enough to the car ahead of them to make a proper overtaking manoeuvre. As for the leaders, Kalbarczyk still leading Krop by 1.7 seconds. So that gap has come down, at least since the first lap of the race, and it might not be over yet. I still think that Moritz Krop could win this race, and he was quicker than Kalbarczyk in race 1, albeit only marginally. But marginal gains is sometimes all you need. Well, and then an overtake, which is the tough part, but anyway, we'll see how that works out if we get to that stage. So, on lap 8, the real point of interest is the long train forming from 3rd back to now 10th, because Ragosa's got into a DRS range of the lot of them. James Huber a little bit too far back himself to get involved, but from 3rd back to 10th is a proper DRS train. Any of these drivers could end up on the podium. Going defensive is Stevens. Granqvist took a look, and that's another change actually that's happened in the top 10. Oh, Stevens gets very wobbly. Granqvist's going to come through. On the inside is he. He's going to make a lunge for it, and we've seen in race 1 that Granqvist does not like backing out of manoeuvres. Oh, gets very sideways. That's going to allow Butcher to get alongside him. Not quite. Somehow keeps that place. It almost looked as if it was going to spin there. Yeah, that is a change that's happened since the start of this race, because Stevens started just behind Granqvist, and they're now in the opposite order to their starting positions. I think that probably happened on the very first lap of the race, unless I missed it later on. There's one very minor DRS zone. Probably doesn't even need to be a DRS zone there. But he will be thinking about the back straight here. I call it the back straight. It really should be the main straight, because it's the longest one on the circuit, and it's not on the back of the track if you look at it on a map. The mini DRS zone should theoretically be the back straight, although it's not very straight, so it doesn't really matter. What we do know is the start-finish straight, of course, which is this one. The one where Granqvist is once again getting closer to Stevens, and once again showing himself to Stevens' mirrors. That's up ahead of him, Kardash, not letting Ruth get away. And Stevens has now lost the DRS from Kardash. So that's going to affect him here. It's going to leave him very vulnerable to Granqvist, who knows that Stevens was slightly quicker in race 1, and as a result, get back ahead of him before Stevens gets another opportunity to stretch his legs. Otherwise, he might not get a chance. Grandfist has been amazing, has been driving amazingly so far today, and is still driving amazingly here. Could he potentially get 2 top 5s on his debut? If he can get past Tom Stevens, the answer will be yes. Depending, of course, on what the DHR guys do. Here we go again, DRS in effect. He's going to take a look to the outside. Who's going to get their nose in front? Grandfist does. Stevens knows he has to back out of it. That was very slow through the chicane, but Grandfist gets ahead, and Butcher is caught out by it. Luke Maguire goes through. So Maguire's now the top THR. Round the outside again comes Stevens. Are they going to touch? I think they just about did. They're not going to bang wheels on the exit, are they? Towards the chicane. Grandfist has the place. Excellent stuff. Really, really excellent racing. Once again, Grandfist up into P5. We're almost halfway through the race now. And all that's happened is Grandfist has put the order back to pretty much what it was at the start. But my goodness, has it been exciting so far. Stevens rubbed the wall very lightly there. You can very much get away with it. That's nothing to be concerned of. Sometimes it's faster there. Down the back straight. Who has the legs here? Maguire's not too far off of them, although Stevens closer to Grandfist. Let's have a look. Here we go. Knows he doesn't have the run. You have to get your nose ahead there. It's very much a case of whoever has their nose ahead is the one who doesn't have to back off. It's a fascinating piece of racetrack because it shows you who you can or can't trust to race against. Look how close Maguire is there. It shows his nose to Stevens at a very unlikely point in the road. Those two are quite big rivals in terms of the championship so far. And as a result, that's very much just Maguire showing Stevens he means business. I want to take a look back at how Butcher got behind Maguire quickly, because that was an interesting kerfuffle. It looked to me as if Butcher just got caught out by the 2 cars fighting in front of him and had a big slide out of the final turn, allowing Maguire ahead. And because those two are fighting for the championship, I doubt there will be team orders between them. Butcher will be cursing himself for the mistake. Up ahead, Kardash going for Ruth for 3rd place. And Stevens going for 5th behind, but look at Kardash and Ruth. Kardash gets it. Kardash gets back up into 3rd position. Further back, Grandfist did manage to fend off Stevens, but yes, it did change for the final podium place. And now, Stevens got back alongside Grandfist. And he's almost helped through the corner there by Maguire. Maguire almost touches him. I think maybe did give him a little love tap. Kardash is a driver who's been on the podium 3 times before in this series. He was on the podium in race 1 last time out at Austria and picked up a win in race 1 at Bahrain. 5th in the championship, remember? Only just behind Stevens in the order. Maguire will be dropping back a long way in the championship, or Magorgi, sorry, as a result of this round. So I believe Stevens will take 3rd and will lead the HGP assault from here. Ash may even take 4th in the championship. Might even take 3rd depending on what happens to Stevens here. Let's take a look at Stevens. Here he goes to the outside of Grandfist again. Forces Grandfist offline. And slides! He slides! And Maguire is up to 6th. Maguire also gets a run on Grandfist. Goes to the inside. Big lunge. Big launch. They bang wheels. They're on different tyre compounds, look, but that's the least for race now. Maguire around the outside. And a brilliant move from Luke Maguire. He launched right when Grandfist wasn't expecting it. and makes up 2 positions. And look at Grankfist coming back at him, using his own late launch tactic against him, and might do the same thing towards the chicane. Under the bridge they go. He's almost forced onto the grass. He does go off the road. And through goes Stevens and Butcher. And Muscat. He loses 4 places. And they touch. He touches Muscat. Grankfist will lose a lot of places with that win. Ragosa might get through to 9th. DRS wide open. Grankfist will feel ticked off about that one. Up the inside goes Ragosa. Goes through. That's another place lost for Grankfist. Butcher now on Stevens. Butcher to the inside. Butcher going through in the THR car. Will be showing the door. Showing the wide line. Settles for 7th. Has to. Krop is now on the back of Kalbachik, right when we thought it couldn't get any more dramatic. We have a race for the lead. And Krop set the fastest lap of the race last time around. He was over half a second, over 0.6 of a second faster than our race leader. And may attack Kalbachik down the back straight. Krop spinning race 1 hampered him then. But he's making up for it. And he is about to make up for it in the best way possible, so long as he can get past Jakub Kalbachik in the remaining 8 minutes of the race. Here he goes! Oh, not going for it here. He had the opportunity to draw level with Kalbachik, but elected not to. Potentially didn't believe that he could get alongside him properly. And settles for 2nd for now. I'm a little surprised by that, but sometimes it is better to be safe than sorry. Not usually when you're fighting for the lead of the race. The fight we have developing, 1st and 2nd going at it. 3rd and 4th still relatively close. And then further back, still we have that fight for 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. And almost 11th. I think Maguire set the fastest lap of the race that last time around. He is wanting to get away from Stevens as quickly as he can. Now, I alluded to this earlier, but he is actually on the soft compounding of tyre, whereas most of the other drivers on the grid are on hards. Muscat is also on softs, which is one of the reasons he's been able to get into the top 10. And Koenig is the 3rd best driver on softs. There are other drivers further back on soft tyres. Down the straight again go the leaders. Kalbachik will keep it for this lap. But it won't be long before Krop tries again. Lap 17 out of 23. Kalbachik leads from Krop, but only just. And it's Kardash and Ruth fighting for 3rd and 4th. Maguire is 5th, once again setting the fastest lap of the race. Then Stevens is fighting with Butcher, Muscat, Ragosa, and Grankfist. 11th is James Hubert, and it's Memo Plant fighting with Craig Patterson. And Dylan Platt, Philip Koenig is in the last points paying position. We've lost another driver, Michal Galka is at the race. Retired a little while ago for a reason that I don't yet know. Although he appears to have had a bit of an off in turn 1 shortly before he retired from the race, so maybe was struggling, and maybe elected to just give up from proceedings. But anyway, indeed, it seems that he just pulled into the pits and gave it all up. The lead is still close at the end of another lap of racing, very close indeed. Across the start-finish line once again. This may, well, it wasn't an opportunity for Krop, but he took a look. His last lap, 0.3 of a second faster than Kalbachik. If he does that again, he'll be through, but it's harder to pass than it is to catch. Ragosa just got ahead of Butcher there. Wow, what happened there? I'll take a look back quickly, but Butcher has been struggling the last few laps, hasn't he? Butcher also lost place to Muscat and all of that, and that's because he ran very wide at the chicane and got an awful run as a result. So Butcher now down to 9th place. It's unexpected from the driver who finished 2nd in race 1. I think Maguire might catch Ruth before the end of this race as well. Might catch the battle between Kardash and Ruth. So, could it still be a podium for Maguire? It's unlikely, but he's good. Now back to Crop. He might well take the lead here. This is his first proper opportunity. Goes to the right-hand side. Ooh, doesn't back up. They go side by side through the chicane somehow. He'll once again have the DRS on the exit, but that's going to have affected his run. He takes a look. Kalbachik's nervous, runs wide. Crop gets a really good exit, but there's no room through into turn 3. Down the hill. Past the barriers on either side. Third chicane. Or second chicane, I suppose. DRS. Really gaining down there. You basically need to be side by side. Oh, and a big slide, and Kalbachik is off. Well, he's not off, but he has lost the lead. So Crop does take the lead of the race due to a mistake from Kalbachik. It's all changed. It looked as if it was going to several laps in advance, but now finally we have another leader from this race. This of Kalbachik just slightly over-rotated in the chicane. Moritz Crop leads the race, and he will not want to give it up for the remainder of the 23 laps that we have here today. Kalbachik making a bit of a mistake into the chicane as well. Let's see what the gap is when they cross the line. Crop needs to stick with him here, because otherwise Crop will, Kalbachik, needs to keep up with Crop, otherwise he will disappear into the distance. The gap was about 7/10 of a second. Once again, Maguire set the first lap of the race. He is now on the back of the fight for 3rd. Could Maguire get a podium here? Is it going to be Kardash or is it going to be Ruth? Those three right together now as well. Moritz Crop won race 2 in India. He's been on the podium 3 times, just as Kardash has. And is heading now for his 2nd victory of the season, if he can hold it. Kalbachik, I think, is out of DRS range, especially considering he just went wide. Indeed, does not open the DRS this time around. Meanwhile, Kardash versus Ruth versus Maguire has reached the straight. And these three are all catching Kalbachik. I don't think Maguire could get 2nd in this race, but he's gaining. And that was another very quick lap. Not quite as fast as, but it was very, very quick. Obviously he has the patience as well to have preserved his tyres for this long. That's a really good job from Luke Maguire. Still pushing on those softs. And still going very, very fast. So we only have 2 laps left after this one, so I don't think his tyres are going to go off in that time. And Butcher spins! Butcher's spun! Butcher is facing backwards. He rejoins the race, but what a treacherous race 2 this has been for a driver who started off the day so well. It's a spin coming out of one of the most dangerous corners of the circuit. He looped it around and he did hit the wall. His front left and rear left, and he's now all the way down in, is that 15th? It's 16th. He may not even get a point at this rate. Up ahead of him, Michalak and Sovic are fighting over 14th. Michalak on the outside will get the place for now, Butch will go for it on the exit. Meanwhile, I don't want to miss anything that happens between Kardash, Ruth, and Maguire. There's a lot going on up and down the field. Sovic's going to come back at Mikulak here. Mikulak might run wide. He keeps it within the lines. Butcher's going to get back into the points here, I think. He's going to the inside of turn 1 for P15. And they bang wheel slightly. Gets away with it on the outside. So Butcher will still salvage a point from this if he can finish in this place. But it's going to be tough. Meanwhile, the battle for third has caught Jakub Kalbacik. In the last 2 laps of the race, we have a 4-way battle for second. Now who's that? There must be a lap car involved, because I can see... Oh no, sorry, they're actually not that far behind Moritz Kropp, are they? I got a little confused by that. Oh, a touch! And around goes Kardash. He just about saves it, but he touched the back of Kalbacik's car. Ruth somehow wasn't able to get through there. And they are catching lap traffic now, as they go into the final lap of the race. So who will get second? Kalbacik, Kardash, Ruth, or Maguire? Probably not Maguire, but he's a little... well, and Kardash lost a lot of time out there, so it may well still be Kalbacik. It's more to do with who gets third here, providing the traffic doesn't jumble it all up again. We are on the last lap of the race. There's not many more opportunities for this to change. It's all going to come down to the straight, I feel. Who's that running wide? Was that Kalbacik? Yes. Or... yeah, I think it was. Kalbacik there ran a little over the chicane. Kardash may still just about get DRS, but he'll be too far back for a move. But that might save him from Ruth. And Kardash does not get DRS. Anyway, Moritz Kropp is about to come through the final couple of corners to win his second race of the season. Good job from Moritz Kropp, and in the end wins by over 2 seconds. Weaves his car in joy and crashes over the line, which you're not allowed to do, so hopefully he gets away with that, but we'll see. Jakub Kalbacik P2, then Damien Kardash will be P3, Fabian Ruth P4, Luke Maguire, a race 1 winner, is P5, followed by Tom Stevens, Alexander Ragosa, Jason Muscat, Yannick Granqvist, James Zuber is P10, then it's Craig Patterson, Menno Klont, Dylan Platt, Kasper Mikulak, and Chris Butcher does pick up 1 point in P15. Sadly, only 1 point at the end of all of that. And missing out was Scott Sovic, Philip Koenig, Simon Frelick, Vincent Gutt, Tom Ely, Mark Fuller, Alija Vicentijevic, Mika Hakimi, Colin Matiak, Gerrit de Vries, who retired in the end. Then also the retirees were Michal Galka, Vincent Kirsmakers, Carlos Fernandez, and the very unfortunate Owen Magorgi. So that's the day's racing done. I want to have a look back at see what happened to Gerrit de Vries, because I didn't see that. I think he may have just given up, knowing that he wasn't going to score any points in this particular race, but may have also had an incident to go along with it. Well, he had a big slide into to turn 2 and then touched the wall. I don't think that would have put him out of the race, though. He just elected to DNF. So anyway, we have 24 finishes from that second race. And what a day it was for Moritz Kropp, Jakub Kalbacik, and Damien Kardash, who all finished on the podium there. A completely different podium in races 1 and 2. And it's very difficult to pick a driver of the day, considering all of the drivers were up and down the order, really swapping and chopping and changing. And I'm not sure if I could pick a winner myself. Possibly. I think it's between Moritz Kropp and Jan Granqvist, potentially, because Kropp was very good to win race 2 there, and also recover from that spin in race 1. And Granqvist was best of the rest in race 1, in a race where THR and HGP looked as if they were going to dominate. But talking of THR, let us first talk to our race 1 winner, Luke Maguire. Luke, do you hear us?
Yep.
Fantastic. So, Luke, you've won another race, and I think you're leading the championship. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that was really race one was really good. Um, Shame on Prop again for losing it because I was looking forward to a nice little race with him. And yeah, I just kind of started building the gap, and Chris and Tom started fighting for P2, and them fighting just gave me a bit of a margin with the tires to kind of save a bit. And yeah, race one was quite plain sailing. And yeah, race two was a little bit less. I was confident that I'd make the softs last the whole race, but just the DRS trains I couldn't get past, and I made a few, dive bombs and last minute attempts to overtake people, but they weren't really paying off. So I'm happy.
It was close. In race two, you were actually one of the only driver. You were the top driver on the softer compound of tire. Do you regret that, or do you stick with your decision?
No, I ended the race with still above 50% in the rears, so it was a good decision in the end. It got us maybe a few positions that we wouldn't have gotten if you're on the mediums. I think we would have probably finished where we started if we stayed on the mediums. The soft just gave me a little bit more confidence to brake a bit later and to accelerate when people were, losing traction and stuff. Yeah, that's really it.
It looked difficult to pass though. You got involved in that really tense battle for second, third, etc. towards the end. Just missed out on a podium.
Yeah.
Do you think you could have got it?
I think if I got past the other cars a bit earlier in the race, I would have got it because when I got released, I started setting 1 second a lot quicker than the cars ahead. And then I couldn't get past Fabian Ruud because his top speed was so high. So
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks to all the guys at THR for another really good race car. It was the car was built great for qualifying, and not so much in the race. I think we probably prioritized qualifying a bit more. But yeah, shout out to Tom Ely, Toby, and David Carter for a good race, and yeah, happy enough.
Well, congrats on your race one victory, and well, I wouldn't say commiserations for race two because P5 is not bad at all, but only just missing out on the podium there. Good result in all.
Yep, thanks, Caitlin.
Anyway, let us bring in our other THR driver of Chris Butcher, who was second in race one, and sadly had a bit of a worse race two. Chris, let's start on a positive, I suppose. P2 in race one, another 1-2 for THR. We'll speak to your team manager in a little bit, but that's got to be a positive at least.
Yeah, I was happy to finish second because my qualifying was a bit pants, to be honest with you. I was miles away from my my PB, but yeah, it came well in the race. The overcut worked really well, and yeah, another 1-2 for the team. Great team result, and yeah, can't really complain at that.
And Chris, what exactly happened in race two? Why did you? What caused the spin?
Just pushing too hard, and I dropped it on the curb. I think the car bottomed out a little bit, and I just lost it. But lucky to keep it out of the wall and keep the car intact. But then I had to let a few cars through, unfortunately. And obviously, after a spin like that, your tyres are completely ruined. So yeah, race two was one to forget, unfortunately.
Were you thinking about the championship when you spun?
Yeah, I mean, of course I was. I'm missing around later on this season, so it's going to be really difficult to recover from that. But we'll keep pushing. There's still plenty of races left, and I might have some fortune go my way potentially later on.
Indeed. Well, congrats on your podium. Your podium streak ended on 9. That's nothing to be sniffed at. Very well done. And,
do you know what? That was actually my first thought was, oh no, my podium streak's come to an end.
Oh really?
But yeah, no, I could be happy with that. But let's aim
Mine's
for a podium
pretty good
in every
streak.
Yeah, well, let's try and get a podium in every race for the rest of the season. Maybe I can make that my target.
Indeed. Well, congratulations, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers, Caitlin.
Just to finish out the THR trio, well, we'll talk to Toby Davis in a bit, but let's talk to Moritz Kropp first. Race 2 victor. Moritz, do you hear us?
Yeah, I do.
Jolly good. So you were very quick in race one, although sadly had that spin. Let's start with that. What caused that, and where do you think you would have finished otherwise?
Yeah, I think I didn't expect it, obviously. In practice, that wasn't the case. I think I just went a bit, if you don't commit to the curb there in turn one, you will lose the car. And I think that's what happened to me. It never happened to me in practice. So, I think, maybe P2 would have been a good position to be in, to be honest. Luke was fast.
It was a strange one. That curb doesn't normally catch out cars like that. Race 2 must have made up for it, though. What a race that was. Talk us through how you caught up to Kalbachik and then how you got through in the end.
I had a really good start. I went to P2 instantly. And it was a big gap, like 2.6 seconds or something. But I managed to catch up a bit, like 1 second. And then I just tried to stay in the 1.5 seconds gap. And it worked. I saved a bit of tires because he was pushing hard. And then I managed to catch him up quite easily. And then I overtook him. Like, nothing more.
Indeed. Well, congratulations on your race 2 win there. That's your second victory of the season. Both of them in race 2s. Do you think you're going to get a race 1 victory before the end of the year?
I hope. Look how close I was to win race 1 in Baku, and then look how close I was to win race 1 here. They were too good here, I must admit, but I'll keep fighting. I'll keep fighting for it.
Indeed. Well, congratulations on your win there, and good luck in future races.
Yeah, thanks.
So that was Moritz Kropp, and as I said before, let's quickly finish the THR saga by talking to Toby Davis, the THR team manager. Toby, are you there?
Yes, hello.
So, a 1-2. That must be every team manager's dream.
So the way the strategy played itself out, I'm over the moon with. Obviously, we were just waiting for Stevens to pit, and then we were going to extend by a lap with Chris. And of course, as soon as Stevens pitted, we knew he'd either be in traffic or on cold mediums that were slower. Chris could do a really fast in lap and hopefully jump him, and it worked out amazing. And obviously, Luke drove excellent races, both race 1 and 2. Particularly his race 2, he chose the soft rather than the mediums. We were all saying sort of mediums would be the way to go, but Luke chose the soft option and really made it work. So yeah, really pleased with how they both drove race 1, and obviously Luke's race 2 performance was excellent.
Indeed. Luke, of course, got up to P5 in race 2. I want to touch on the dynamic between your two drivers, because, of course, you came into this round just 9 points separating the two of them. They're fighting for the championship. Are there any team orders between the two of them? And actually, if you find them 1-2, do you tell them to hold station, or are we going to see some Mercedes-style battles towards the end of the year?
Absolutely right now. And this should be their main focus. It is the team's championship and making sure that we have enough of a lead for that to happen. To be honest with you, Caitlin, I think right now it's a very sensitive time in the championship right now. Obviously, Moritz did an excellent job in that race too. We can see he's quick. There are other drivers in there. Tom Stevens also showed real competitive pace, and we know how fast Owen is. I really hope that he comes back in the next round, obviously after his incidents today, so that we have got that competition. But we've got some discussion to have after this round. The race 2 was a bit of shenanigans that I need to sort out inside the team, but in general we're very happy. And obviously, once again, massive thank you to Tom Ely. We dedicated this to him, this particular round. We had a couple of messages on the front wing for him. They're not going to remain for the rest of the season, but he behind the scenes works very hard, as does Andrew Waring, as does David Carter. So it's been a real team effort, and we're going to continue to push forwards for the rest of the season. Hopefully we can have a nice discussion about how well they race each other, but at the moment I do not want that to happen.
Fantastic. Well, amazing results today. Unfortunate for Chris in race 2, but a 1-2 in race 1, and that's got to feel good. So thank you for speaking to us, and good luck in the future.
Thank you very much, Caitlin. Hopefully we'll do this more often. Nice.
Not that they needed that. Good luck, of course. Anyway, so that's all we've got time for today. And that, of course, will be the end of our broadcast. So thank you all for sticking around. And I hope that you enjoyed these exciting couple of races as much as I did. I'd very quickly like to say a massive thank you to both Heigo Poom and the amazing Jack Mayer, who worked super hard to get this broadcast up. I'm not sure if you noticed anything at the start of this broadcast, but we were quite late and quite unprepared because there was a lot of issues going on behind the scenes. But I tell you what, it would have been a lot worse without the hard work of those two individuals, and we wouldn't have been able to stream at all. So thank you to both of those, and thank you for letting me perform, my job. But anyway, as I said, that's the end of this broadcast today. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time from my favorite race circuit of all, Silverstone. Thank you for watching.